kids, it's the Mist and Fly here, hope you're well. Well, it's the end of another month. April has come and gone, rocketed by as usual, and that means another 4 MCNs have been read cover to cover. So stick around, stay tuned, and I'll tell you the top stories from MCN in this last month. Okay, so to the first paper then. The first thing that I've picked out here is actually a letter from the letters page, and it's from a chap called David Shaw, and he's basically proposing that bikes are just getting too expensive, and I wondered if you agree with that. I must admit, I do tend to feel that bikes are getting pretty expensive. Now these days, if you want to buy a sports bike, you're looking at sort of 15 grand or thereabouts. I mean, this is the new Fireblade, which I was lucky enough to ride a couple of days ago, and there'll be a review on it soon. This bike, 15 grand, you know, for the basic machine. Even if things like my 899, that cost me 15 grand as well a couple of years ago. So yeah, I think bikes are getting very expensive indeed. They used to be a sort of a cheap mode of transport, but I don't think they're really that anymore, are they? But just wonder what your thoughts on that were. We'll talk a bit later about second-hand bikes, but you know, if you're getting to get a new bike, it's a serious chunk of cash these days, isn't it? Anyway, so that was the first one. Just a thought really to throw out there. Next thing that caught my eye was this, and this is the review of the latest Indian Chieftain. It's one of these, what they call a bagger, a cruiser type bike, and MCN have tested it here. And the reason why I've just highlighted this is I'm just wondering who actually buys these in the UK. Does anybody ride these? I don't know if I've ever seen one on the road. I know they're super popular in the US, and they're obviously built for the US market, where they love their low torque and so on. But again, number one, it's very expensive, £22,000 in the UK if you're going to buy one of these things. And the thing is a colossal weight. I mean, it's 371 kilograms. So, you know, getting on for 400 kilograms, nearly half a ton. If you drop that, you ain't going to be picking it up again, are you? So they do these reviews from time to time. Of course, MCN have to cover all bike genres, but I just wondered, does anyone actually buy those in the UK, or is it just a thing of interest for us to see of what goes on in the US? But there we go. I mean, I love all bikes, and I can appreciate the engineering on these big V-twins. Just amazing looking machines, but I certainly wouldn't want one in this country with our small roads. So interested in your thoughts on that in the comments below. Okay, next story that's piqued my interest here. It's come around to that time of year where MCN every year do a big superbike test. And now that all the Japanese manufacturers have got their latest bikes out as well, they've done this big test now against, you know, pitting all the litre bikes together. And in fact, the Fireblade, again, got the picture here, comes out top of this test. And basically what they're saying is that what Honda have done is they've played a blinder. They've waited to see what other manufacturers have done, and then they've basically gone in not with just higher horsepower, which they haven't, but actually just gone in with a better bike in terms of its functionality, its electronics package, and so on. So quite interesting reading that. As I mentioned earlier, I rode the Fireblade earlier this week, and I really enjoyed it. It's a lovely bike, but in terms of looks, I just don't think it's quite there. So although it may have won the test in terms of functionality and ease of living with and so on, I think that, you know, part of buying a bike, or most of buying a bike, is actually a thing to do with your heart rather than your head. And for me, when I bought a sports bike, I mean, I just saw this thing and thought, that's a bike I've got to have. I just love the looks of it. So, you know, and the 899 is a great bike too, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are marginal differences between them. Okay, the Fireblade's got a TFT colour screen, it's got a few more electronics and so on. But, you know, still to this day, given the choice of the two, I'd go for the Panigale. And really the only reason for that is the way it looks. I just think it looks beautiful. So, although Honda have done a blinder here, I wonder whether they've done enough with the looks. So I'd be interested to hear what you think on that one. So that's the Fireblade. And then last but not least, from the first paper of the month, MCN did a look at the big KTMs, comparing the 1090 and the 1290 Super Adventure S. I only point this out because I rode the 1290 Super Adventure S recently, and I absolutely loved it. It's my current favourite adventure bike of them all. And actually, often when MCN do these sort of things, they say, you know, smaller is just as good as larger. But in this case, they've come out and said that the Super Adventure S is the better bike. I mean, it definitely is, but then again, it's a lot more expensive. Not that there's anything wrong with the 1090 Adventure, but that Super Adventure S, really an incredible bike. If you've not had the chance to ride one and you like adventure bikes, see if you can get down to your local KTM dealer and have a go on one. Absolutely stonking machine. Okay, so that was the first paper. Moving on. Right, so this is the 12th of April edition. Just 3 things to quickly highlight here. New Husqvarna showing up there, but that's not the reason why I've opened this page. Actually, it was because of this story here. BMW's 2-wheel drive hybrid is real. Now, a while back, BMW launched on social media what was blatantly an April Fool's joke about a 2-wheel drive BMW, and a lot of people asked if I was going to review it. Now, that particular story was a spoof and it was an April Fool. But is it one of those double bluffs? Because it turns out MCN have found out that there are some patents that BMW have filed for a two-wheel drive GS that are sitting around in the patent office. So it's quite interesting. And also, it's not such a stupid idea, because a while back, one of the BMW suppliers, I was trying to find the name of it. Who was it now? It wasn't Touratech. It was one of those sort of people. Wunderlich, that's it, the German version, if you like, Wunderlich. They did a partnership with BMW and actually came up with an electric-driven front wheel to fit on the GS. So it's not so far-fetched as maybe some people thought. So interesting, I love that. Could have been a double bluff. It was an April Fool's joke originally, but perhaps there's more truth to it than meets the eye as well. So that's quite fun. Second story from this paper. Just a quickie here. Just at the bottom here, the London, it says here, bikers ride in London to raise theft issues. And this was the UK bike theft protest gathering in Westminster on the, I think it was the 5th of April. Sorry, the 1st of April. And it got a little bit of coverage in MCN, which I'm glad to see. Not huge coverage. Would have liked to have seen a bit more, and it seems to credit Carol Nash quite a lot with that demonstration, rather than actually the UK motorcycle theft protest group. Those are the guys that I spoke to when I did my video on how to stop your bike being stolen. So if you've not seen that, check it out. But good to see a little bit of coverage in MCN of that ride. Sorry I couldn't make it there. I was actually away skiing when that was happening. Otherwise I would have been there too. Okay, and then the next story here. Pleased to see that in the MCN long-term fleet, they've actually got a Street Triple RS on the fleet. So we're going to be seeing a lot of ongoing reviews about this. MCN each year get a batch of new bikes that they give to their reporters, and then they, for the next sort of 8-9 months, they sort of own them as if they're their own, and you get updates on how they're getting on. So really pleased to see that the Street Triple is included in that. I'm very lucky in that next week I shall be picking up a Street Triple RS from the Triumph factory for a long-term loan. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit of riding on one of these over the next few weeks, and bringing out a lot of videos as well. So can't wait to have a go on that. As obviously a long-term owner of a Street Triple R myself, it's going to be really interesting to compare the new bike against my old classic, as I like to think. Can't believe that I'm saying a 2012 bike is an old classic. It still feels like a new bike to me, but there we go. Things move on, don't they? Right, next paper. Right, first story here. Sparks Flight Guy's Zero test. Now this is Guy Martin. It's gone out to Japan, in fact, with John McGuinness, his new Honda teammate. And they're both going to be riding the Mugen electric bike at this year's TT. Guy Martin, John McGuinness has ridden it before, and Guy, being his teammate, is going to be riding it this year as well. So they're both riding that machine, and he did very well in the test apparently. There's a high chance that Guy Martin could win the electric TT on that bike, and it will therefore be his first TT win. So just reading that, I mean, it's amazing. It would be an incredible achievement to do, because these bikes lap at something like 120 miles an hour, but they only do one lap, because then they run out of battery power effectively. So my question to you really is, if Guy Martin wins his first TT top spot on the podium on the electric Mugen, is that really going to count? Personally, I think it does. 120 mile an hour lap is pretty quick in anybody's book, but it's not quite the same as the senior TT, is it? So just interested in your thoughts on that one. So that was the first story that piqued my interest. Then to the letters page for the next one, because here we have another letter down here. This is from Barry Lynn in Aberystwyth. He's also saying that bike prices are too high. So it's interesting that MCN have published two very similar letters, but he's lamenting much the same as that previous letter, saying that you know, bikes are just too expensive, and why do all the magazines and papers, you know, support it? So he's saying that, you know, MCN say that things like the Yamaha MTN Naked is deal of the week, and it's 11 grand, which is still a lot of money. So sort of agree with that, must admit. But there we are, interesting that it's starting to get some traction. People are complaining about high prices of bikes. Me too. Okay, next one. Tuono, Aprilia, they brought out a new Tuono V4 factory, the naked bike, absolutely stonking machine. I've never ridden an Aprilia, but I really like the looks of this thing, and all the write-ups I ever read about it are good. So I'd really love to get a ride on one of these at some time. I'm trying to sort that out, but not having much luck at the moment. But what a lovely looking bike. And it's in terms of its price, well, it's 16 grand on the road, so another expensive bit of kit just for a fun machine. But you know, if ever I got rid of my Street Triple, then it'll either be for another Street Triple, or it might be for one of these, but I'll have to ride one, or a Super Duke R. These are the sort of the top nakeds as far as I'm concerned. But really love the looks of that thing. It's got all the bits on it, Brembos, Olins, etc., and I think it just looks the nuts. So one day maybe I'll get to ride one of those. Anyway, just point that out because I think that looks a lovely bike. And then last but not least from this paper, MCN have done one of their sort of group reviews, and this is of Scramblers. So they've pitted together the BMW R9T Scrambler with the Ducati Desert Sled, the new sort of Scrambler S-type version of that bike, and then the Triumph Street Scrambler as well. Interesting read. I love the Scrambler style of bike. I really love one of these in my garage. I think it would complement my collection quite nicely. But anyway, the winner in terms of off-road on this was the Ducati Desert Sled. Maybe not too surprising because that's probably got the highest suspension and it's a very light bike. But really their conclusion on that review was, you know, no one really is going to take their 10 grand Scrambler off-road, are they? They're really just a styling exercise, not a real Scrambler. It's kind of what they're saying. And in fact, what they say is, if you want to go off-road, then get yourself a GS, which is very interesting because obviously I have a GS too, and there's no way I'd take that off. That thing cost me 18 grand and there's no way I'm going to take that off-road. I think if you're going to go scrambling, then get yourself a Honda CRF. You know, 4 grand, brand new bike, lightweight, go for it, enjoy yourself. Anyway, so that was it for that paper. So on to this week's MCN then. Some of the top stories from this that I've picked out. First one, again, another letter. Now this is interesting because this is from a guy called Jez Weaver, and he's saying that bike prices are spot on. And he's saying in real terms, if you look at bike prices, actually, they're still much the same as they were. If you look at a price of a Suzuki GS 1000 in 1978, it's the equivalent of 13,471 in today's money. So not a million miles from the 15 odd grand that they're asking now, I guess. So an interesting viewpoint, the alternative. Are they expensive or not? I don't know. It feels to me like they're very expensive. You can buy a car for that sort of money. Okay, second story here. This is interesting. City Slicker is the headline, and they're looking at a new Yamaha scooter. But the reason I raise it is really just asking, why in the UK don't we embrace scooters? Is it just down to the fact that people think they maybe look a bit naff and we've got rubbish weather? Or is it something else? I don't know, because they seem eminently practical. And these new super scooters, to me, they look quite smart and they're practical. You can keep your crash helmet and your shopping under the seat. They're performant. They are quite expensive still, but not as expensive as the super bikes we've been talking about. I just don't really understand why they don't catch on in the UK. If you go to Rome or you go to France, you see scooters all over the place. We just don't do it in this country. I suspect it's down to the weather, but is it something else? Interested to hear your views on that. Okay, next story here. Another comparison type review that MCN are great at doing, and they've compared here the BMW R9T Racer with the Triumph Thruxton R, which is quite a good comparison. And in fact, in the can, yet to publish, but I have got a video comparing the Street Cup with the R9T Racer that I did myself a few months back, and I'll be publishing that one soon. This is probably a better comparison because the bikes are more competitive in terms of price. And what they've basically said, and I agree with their summary, is that the Thruxton is the better bike. It's more refined, it's more modern feeling and so on. But if you were going to actually buy one, I'd go for the R9T Racer. There's just something about it. It's to my mind, it just feels a bit more authentic than the Thruxton R, which is a fantastic bike. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Triumph fan, so you know, it's a marginal thing. I'm clutching, I'm nitpicking here. But for me, that BMW, it just looks amazing. When you see it in the flesh, it's an amazing bike, as is the Thruxton R. But the BMW just, to me, just doesn't feel like it's trying quite so hard. But again, interested to hear your views on that. And then last but by no means least for this month's paper review, I said I'd mention second-hand bikes, talked a bit about new bikes being so expensive. Here's an article from one of the MCN regulars, Ped Baker. He's bought himself a Fireblade. It's a 2002 machine and it cost him £3,500. Now, that is a bargain bike, isn't it? I mean, it looks fantastic. If I could get a Fireblade for £3,500 that looked to be in such good condition, I'd be seriously tempted. Even if it does have to be 2002, I mean, you know, 15-year-old bike is still £3,500, so to my mind that's still quite expensive. If you bought a second-hand car 15 years old, you'd probably pay less than £3,500 depending on the car. But there we go. But so my point is, there's still hope. If you want a performant bike, something that looks amazing, you can still pick these things up second-hand for reasonable money. All right, that's it for this month's review. Hope that's been of some interest to you. Look forward to reading your comments below, and look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio.